assault weapon if they're coming after you with another gun the same size? It's sort of like, why in the world would you go to a gunfight with a knife? It just makes no sense at all. Right? In fact, the provisions in the Constitution are there to fight off tyrannical governments. Everybody had a gun because they ate what they shot in the days when they wrote the Constitution. And they all brought their sons and daughters up so they could use them. This is not something that was uncommon. In fact, if the colonials, and the early people in the States didn't have a weapon, and the federal government wanted you to be in the service of the federal government, they provided the gun so you could, in fact, be in the militia and be called up. And you had to be trained, and you had to be regular. And that's what the Second Amendment talks about. The militia being necessary for a free state, right? The right for the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. But this whole argument that's going on is totally absurd in the Constitution. You and I can have any weapon that the government has. Is that shocking?
No.
What were the weapons available when the War for Independence were fought? Muskets, rifles, and cannons. Not all that had swords and knives. Now you tell me that the colonists didn't have all those weapons? They had cannons, and they could be in somebody's house. They just happened to keep them in a common place. But they belonged to somebody. This is a totally ridiculous argument. Particularly when you lay it beside the Pennsylvania Constitution. Shall not be questioned. Why in the world do we have all these gun laws? Why in the world do you have to go get a permit? To get permission from the government to do something you have a right to do? Can you answer that question?
Yeah, because they'll put you in jail.
Okay, they'll put you in jail because they brainwash us all to believe that they have the power to do that. And if the sheriff is doing his or her job, which is what I told my sheriff, she said, well, you're going to want me to stop issuing permits. I said, well, at least you ought to tell the people that it's not required. But if you don't get it, they're going to put you in jail. So until we get this fixed, get the permit if you choose so. Some people choose not to. All right? But then it becomes the responsibility of the individual to make that choice, not government telling you you got to have it. Now, I think we the people ought to network together and instruct all those in the county level and everywhere else for that matter, that they're breaking the law when you do this. And I have a paper on there that's unconstitutional on the website. It's unconstitutional to issue or to require or issue a permit to carry concealment. So read my position on it. Now, it is totally the result of the fact that we have unconstitutional governments. You're right. They will put you in jail. Sometimes, that's the thing we have to do. We have to be willing to place our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor, just like the framers did. If you think about it, this country is right where we were in 1776 before war broke out. Read the Declaration of Independence and all of the things they were complaining about to the king, and see how many of those are being done to us today. I suggest all of them, in one form or another. And you will learn that it's been going on intently since the war between the states, and more aggressively since FDR, that's Franklin Delano Roosevelt, instituted the Emergency Banking Act in March 1933. This country has been under a national emergency since March 9, 1933. Never been out of it. And the President and the Secretary of Treasury have pretty much all the power. Congress is pretty much irrelevant. It goes through the motions. They've been working on it since 1973 to get some of the powers back. But no president has ever relinquished the power that he stole these mass murders, and it is extremely tragic. And if you look at it, where are they? They're in gun-free zones, and they involve people who are mentally unstable. And people are usually seclusive, they're loners, they play games, there's all sorts of things. So, I wrote this in response to it, quoted the state constitution, and said that guns are not the cause, that guns kill people. It's not guns, it's people kill people, isn't it? So I listed 12 things. I like the number 12 because that's a number for justice, a biblical number for justice. 12 things that I think really contribute to the fact that we have this problem. It's not the guns. That's just a tool. We already know that they can blow up buildings, don't we? So that's another pretty much big assault weapon. So taking God out of the public square is our first big problem. We turned away from the principles of morality and found in the Bible. That is our biggest problem. The second one is gun-free zones. Then I listen to certain attorneys and judges and professors and those kind of folks. The media, you can read the rest of it. Drugs, legal and illegal. Another big problem is this idea that, oh my goodness, if we tell Johnny he's out of step, he'll be harmed for life. You know, we can't possibly spank him. Oh my goodness, that will just devastate the kid. Well, there are abusive people that spank their children excessively, I know that. But frankly, for those of you who are my age, and there are a number of you who are my age or more, he's 71 in May. Going to the principal's office and getting a walk with a paddle wasn't necessarily a bad thing. My mother certainly had no problem doing that, and I survived somehow. It's amazing. Now, some might say, well, yeah, how you turned out. Well, bottom line is, I have a respect for the truth, and I don't lie. And that was something my mother wouldn't tolerate. She told me very early, you don't do it, and if you do, there's a consequence. Not a bad thing. And we have people in government at the highest level that have no concept of the truth. No concept whatsoever. Okay. There's an article on there on the website about eligibility. Who's an active foreign citizen? Read that. Mr. Obama is not.
Eligibility, Andrew Smith.
Mr. Obama is not, never could be an active foreign citizen.
So how do we impeach him?
Pardon me?
How do we impeach him?
Well, let's hold that question for just a minute and I'll answer it. All right? I'll do it now. First of all, the biggest problem is to impeach. You have to file a petition for impeachment with the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
Correct. And those guys haven't got enough backbone to cut the budget. They want, and there's another paper on there about this. They're going to cut the budget by $85 billion. That's a sequester amount. The Federal Reserve pumps into the economy $85 billion a month.
Yeah.
How big a farce is that? And the whole world's going to come to an end. What I'd really like to see is they just shut the federal government down totally, and everybody would find out. Guess what? The world goes on. It keeps turning. Right? Now you might be inconvenienced a little bit, but so what? I guess you have to go out and work a little hard, maybe. Right? Oh, by the way, if it shuts down, why aren't you sending all those taxes? My suggestion to that is let's put the taxes in an escrow in the state, call back the Senate and Representatives and say to the federal government, until you start operating according to the law, about 8% of what they do is unconstitutional, by the way, my estimate. Until they start doing that, we're not sending any money to you. Oh, by the way, there's no money. Anyway, again, another subject for another day. The answer is it's really hard to get the crooks to impeach another crook. Particularly since they know that that guy in the White House allegedly has all the power he needs to have. Since 1933, the President and the Secretary of Treasury had all the power.
So if that happened in 1933, what do you have to do to get that back out of the office of the president?
According to them, the he said was, when the Constitution is violated, the Constitution strikes with nullity that which does violence to its provisions. The Constitution strikes with nullity that which does violence to its provisions. You don't need anything. They take an oath of office to support, obey, and defend the Constitution, or to protect and defend it to the federal level. All right? They're not doing it. They're violating it. And everything that they do is null and void from the time that they did it. Everything.
Yeah, but fight them on that.
Got it?
Fight them on that, and you're not going to win.
Okay. That's why we need...
That flag right there that's in this building, in this room, is a military flag.
All right. I understand that. I have non-fringe flags out in the car. If you'd like for me to bring me on, I will. But I decided not to do it. And again, I challenged that in the Pennsylvania courts. Went nowhere. All right? But I've done that over the 24 years, 23 years. The answer to your question, and let's spend a couple minutes on solutions because I know I've painted a very dark picture. The sheriff is one of the solutions. If the sheriff says, not in my county, and we say, okay, you're going to be a constitutional sheriff, we're with you. And we get organized and we get trained. Get on the website, and on the front page, it has a document about the sheriff, and it really replicates this document. And I link to, on the bottom, there's about a posse. And I describe what a posse is. And then I link you to Maricopa County, Arizona, Sheriff Opaya's posse. Now, they've been having a posse since the early 40s. He's got over 3,000, I think about 3,700 people in his posses now. He's got all sorts of different posses. It's really fascinating. All right? And they're trained, and they do their various things. I think the funniest one is they have two posses in a retirement home called Sun City and Sun City West. And then you get on there and see the pictures, and they're all dressed up in their uniforms. They got their badge, and they go around and they do what I guess we would call community watch. And if they see something going on that's wrong, they call the sheriff or another posse that's authorized to use force. We need that kind of involvement of the citizens, so that the sheriff says, okay, you got 100 people coming from Washington, I got 5,000. Bring it on. Well, first of all, they're a bunch of cowards. They aren't going to bring it on. They're going to go away because they got no authority. They have no authority. That's the remedy. If you want to solve this problem, get network, learn the law, and stand up and say no. That's called nullification, by the way. You have the right to say no, don't we? How many of you have children? What's the first word that they said? Now, I know that our daughter learned it from us. Probably the same with you, because, don't do that. No. But we have forgotten how to say no. We've been conditioned to believe everything they say. We went to school, in the government schools, and we taught us all this stuff. We were walking in a straight line, and all this other stuff. No is a valid answer, and we've got to start saying it with authority. Right? Now, in the county, there's all sorts of ways you can have say no. First of all, the sheriff. The sheriff ought to stand up and say, I'm the top cop, and if you don't like it, guess what? I'm going to issue a warrant for your arrest. Now, what Sheriff in Chester County says, well, if I do that, the DA is going to arrest me. Well, you have to be willing to step up, and I say, we have to stand with them. All right? But her answer is, well, if I arrest somebody else, I arrest the DA. They're not going to prosecute. And I say, well, what's the remedy to that? What is the job of the DA? Prosecute criminals. And the sheriff has determined that there's a criminal. There at least has to be a hearing to see whether, in fact, there's probable cause. There has to be an indictment if it's a crime by 25 citizens. Well, they've eliminated that now. The DA can do it on information. We've lost our positions in the government as the people. We need citizen grand juries so that we can start indicting these folks. So if the DA doesn't do his job, what's the remedy? And then she says, well, even if we arrest the DA, the judge won't hear the case. I said, come on, you can figure this out.
That's the judge.
You got a deputy sheriff in every courtroom. And the deputy opened up the law. And when the judge or the prosecutor, or anybody for that matter, breaks the law, he's going to step up to the judge and say, Judge, I just saw you break the law. I would really like for you to correct that mistake so I won't have to arrest you. I had a young deputy in a case where the judge did violate my rights, and after the judge was out of court, I said, you just saw the judge violate my rights multiple times, you did nothing. You should have arrested him. He was pretty quick. He says, they don't pay me enough to do that. My answer was, well, young man, if you start doing your job, maybe the citizens of the county see fit to give you a raise. The point is, praise when it's necessary, criticize when necessary. And we need to have our government, people in government, understand that they work for us, not the other way around. Right? Now, the only way they're going to do that, is for us to understand and to be willing to stand up, and if you have to, go to jail, and then go to court, and then make them pay. All right? I can tell you that in the early 90s, I helped form the Pennsylvania Committee of Correspondence. We published a paper and a whole bunch of things for a number of years. And the idea there was to educate the network, same thing with the brigades, all right? And I wanted to have 100 people in each county of Pennsylvania do what I do, and that is challenge everything and anything. Take every issue to the state Supreme Court. You imagine that if 100 people were doing that, the courts would have to start dealing with murders and rapes and robberies and stop doing all these victimless crime stuff that they do in order to collect revenue. All right? There's not enough of them. They don't have the funding to do it. The point is, we the people sit around and let them get away with it. Because we might get arrested. Yes, you might get arrested. When do you think you're going to be stronger? Today or tomorrow? You're never going to be stronger than you are today. Because every day, the government and those who want to take away our liberties are working to do just that. So I encourage you, I really encourage you to start studying this stuff. And the website is a place to start. If you have any questions, that's what I recommend you do. I appreciate your attendance, and I would just say there is one quote that I like to use. It's by Edmund Burke. The only thing necessary for evil to survive is for good men, that includes women, to do nothing. We really are at a point right now, we don't have an option. Do you think that Cyprus is an exception to the rule?
Great test.
This is a worldwide economy by design. Bush II had 20 finance ministers come to the White House to talk about the crisis, the financial crisis. Why do you think he did that? Because this is a world economy. What happens anywhere affects you. And I tell you, our economy is in much worse shape than the economy. It's just being propped up by printing money and using the tricks that they've come up with. So, you want to, we'll hold the questions, and you want to do a drawing, and then we'll answer the questions.
Who wants to go to jail?
Yeah.
I do too. As long as I get some use for cellmates, I'm okay with it. I don't want to go alone. All right. Hey, I need a Vanna White. Come on up. All right, Vanna.
Let me see.
One at a time. We'll get half a dozen tickets.
Half a dozen, one at a time.
Number 972136. 972136. You are number one. All right, you're number one in line. Number 972149.
Here.
Yeah! troublemakers, number 2 in line. Whoop, he gave me 2 tickets. Hang on that one. 972118. 18, number 3. 972119. Yeah, twins, all right. 972120. You couldn't do this again if you tried.
What's over?
20.
Yeah, I have 2-0.
All right, you're number 5. We got one more cooking here. Yeah, see if you get 2-1 for me. All right, here we go. What do we got? 2-9. 2-9.
Oh,
you.
29.
29. Yep. Is that you? All right. And we have our 6. So in descending order, when you leave the room, see Al and you can pick a prize in the back. Al, in the back. All right. Okay, couple pieces of just some closing information. Then we're going to do some Q&A. Don't forget May 1st. That will be a very important meeting. Hopefully we will have a sheriff here. Very possibly have some state representatives here. We're going to try to keep pulling these guys out so we can pinpoint. I like it when they're here and get to hear the stuff instead of just from one of us one at a time. When there's 50 or 100 of us in a room and you're hearing some of their responsibilities and obligations to us, it makes some sense. So be here May 1st. That is important. As you're leaving the room, along with picking up your prizes, do look. There's some great stuff back there from the Tea Party, stuff that for a donation you can take home with you. Do support the Tea Party tonight. I know, money is the root of all evil. I'm just trying to save your soul. So unload it before you leave here. We want you to go home clean.
It's the love of money.
The love of money. So quit loving your money and leave it in the bucket. All right? I'm working on being a pastor. Drop your money before you leave the room. All right? What else am I supposed to say here? Q&A. I know Q&A, but there was something else really important. Once again, I'd just like to have have the Tea Party board members stand up and be recognized briefly. These guys and girls put in a lot of time, a lot of effort. And they're doing their darndest to bring out good speakers who can inform us and teach us and get us motivated to stand up and go to jail together. All right? But he's dead right. I joke about it, but he is dead right. It's good. It really is going to come down to that. We need to be able to stand up and defy some of these people. Pinhead was the first thing I was going to say, but I thought I would just suck that up and call them people. So for tonight, we'll call them people. All right. So once again, thank you for being here. Keep up the good work, and we're going to go to Q&A with Mr. Ryle.
Question? Yes, sir.
You said they are attempting to eliminate the sheriffs in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Are you talking about the legislature, or who is they?
People who really run the government.
Who is that?
SARS.
Well, the legislators, by and large, do what they're told. Attorneys and judges have been running this government for a long, long time. They work for bankers. Certain politicians who have power. I guess you can answer that question. Who's the party boss in your county? Is he an attorney? Find out. I know in Chester County, when I made my home there, it's been an attorney, actually from the same law firm. Different people, but they're still attorneys. And is this a Republican or a Democratic county? Republican. Republican. So, how do you get control of this? There are 3 county commissioners, right? 2 are Republican, because it's a Republican county. 1 of them's a Democrat. Last time I checked, 2 beats 1 every time. So what you need to do is get the 2 commissioners to do what they're supposed to do, or get somebody in there who will, and you got control of the county legislative branch. You're not going to get control of the courts, unfortunately. So what you need to do is get the sheriff to be the sheriff, and then the judges will start saying, "Uh-oh, game's up." And in order for that to happen, the people have to be there. All right? You just got to. That's all there is to it.
jury nullification will not take place in this court. That he himself is the only one that has the capability, and by law, can judge the law or its applicability to the case. Now, that's not lie. I mean, we know this. We know that he's instructed to do that by higher-ups.
Oh, he's taught that.
He's taught that, but he's instructed to do that as well, I'm sure.
Right.
Now, what counties have there been in, and I'm sure it's taken place in all the counties across Pennsylvania, are there any counties where, let's say, the local Tea Party or local group that on the jury selection days, we have just 3 days out of the month, where they're maybe handing out pamphlets? Have there been any attempts that way to poison the jury pool or educate the jury pool in any way? Do you know of any history over the last 10 years where that's taken place? Any arrests? Any type of ramifications? Or what have you seen or read or thought about in regards to educating, potential jurors in terms of what they're allowed to do in regards to jury nullification? That's the first line of defense.
Okay. First of all, on the website, I wrote a paper, Jurors Can Judge Both the Facts and the Law. We handed that document out to the governor, lieutenant governor, and all state representatives and senators a couple weeks ago. It's been a month ago now. We hand out papers about every 2 weeks. If you come up, you can look at all 45 of them that we have handed out. And they're on the website under, see what the title is. County Sheriff Brigades of Pennsylvania. So it's CSBP documents. Go up on the resources, go down to documents. Go on the front page and look at the last CSBP document, and that'll get you to the latest one, and then you can go to the rest of them on that page too. There's a couple ways to get there. But you can read all of them. All right? And my point is to give these out. I don't have any effect on these folks. I mean, I'm giving them out, and we are well known by the staffs in Harrisburg. I was doing this work in the early 90s on various subjects. On Real ID, we did that for 5.5 years, often handing out some every week, not to everybody. And then I said to Jim, let's change our tactic in 2010. I said, in 2011, let's start doing it to everybody on various subjects, and that's what we did. And fortunately, in that session, Real ID was passed and signed into law. The nullification of Real ID. All right. As far as getting juries to do their job, first of all, if you stand up and you're being interviewed, and you're being voir dire done, whether you can be on the jury or not, and you say, well, I believe in jury nullification, guess what? Boom, you're out of there. All right? When the judge tells you that, they are lying. All right? And they're lying for a couple of reasons. In fact, there's a 1895 case, Spratt versus United States, where the Supreme Court of the United States said, yes, the jury has the right and the duty to judge the law and facts, but we don't have to tell them. And from that point on, they have continued, gotten more and more aggressive. Now they do what you said. In fact, they said to me when I go to court quite a bit, and in the last case, the judge told me you will not be able to speak about the law to the jury. If you do, I'll find you in contempt. Now, the case was a matter of law. It had nothing to do with the facts. I was conceded the fact. Because that's what I do. I go and challenge what they think is the law. And bottom line is that's how arrogant they are. And the answer is, keep your mouth shut. Go on the jury. Do your thing.
So you don't know of any counties that have given out pamphlets to potential jurors?
Because judges and attorneys run this government. Yeah. Every constitutional convention that we had in the state.
I understand what you're saying, that they run it, and so keep your mouth shut, then you can create a hung jury. I understand that. But I'm asking you in regards to something that a group can do for 3 days during jury selection to it's
They're-
quite amazing that you've got a captive audience there to try to educate.
And there are people of Fully Informed Jury Association from Arrowhesia.
Yeah,
They handed out,
Montana.
they handed out pamphlets and
Yeah,
those kind of
they've got
things.
good pamphlet.
I got thrown out of the courtroom because I was accused of doing that, but I wasn't. Amazing. Anyway, that's something you can do. The problem is, what are they going to do? They're going to question the jury. Did you talk to these folks and do you believe that? Boom, you're off the jury. The solution is getting the government in the county back in the box where they're supposed to be. The framers put in all sorts of checks and balances. As an example, the coroner is the only person in the county that can serve papers on the sheriff. Did you know that? The coroner can take the place of the sheriff. The coroner can arrest the sheriff. The coroner is the equivalent of the sheriff. That's why they were put on the same section in the Constitution initially. Always checks and balances. 2 or 3 constables can arrest a sheriff when they get out of control. Now, understand, if you make a false arrest, then you're subject to prosecution yourself. So you do it with great prudence. But nevertheless, there's always checks and balances in a constitutional republic. Always. And, if you haven't heard this, nullification is not something that Thomas E. Woods made up. He's the one who wrote the book on nullification. It's a great book, by the way. Go back and read Federalist 51. Let me read this to you on nullification. In a single republic, all the power surrendered by the people is submitted to the administration of a single government. And the usurpations are guarded against by a division of the government into distinct and separate departments. And that's part important. In the compound republic of America, the people surrender, the power surrendered by the people is first divided between 2 distinct governments, state and federal. And then the portions allotted to each subdivided among distinct and separate departments. Hence, a double security arises to the rights of the people. The different governments will control each other at the same time that each will be controlled by itself. End quote. Everybody think that's not clear, is it? We divide the power between the 2 governments, and they're supposed to check each other. And then within departments, the 3 departments are supposed to check each other. And the legislative branch is the strongest of the 3 parties. All right? There are representatives. They say it's co-equal branches. That's who we. All right? The legislative branch is the most powerful because they represent the people. That's our power. The executive is to see that the laws are faithfully executed. That's for the duty of the governor. Oh, the attorney general thinks he's the top cop now. No. The governor is the chief law enforcement officer in this county, in this commonwealth. Or the president, if he was the president. All right? And then the judicial is supposed to be the weakest of the 3 branches. Hamilton 78 is very clear about that. And he said that we had nothing to fear as long as it didn't join with either of the other 2. Well, it's joined with all 3 now, and so we're in deep trouble. So you have the judiciary is the weakest, the legislative is the strongest, and the executive is in between. That's our history. All right? So jury nullification is a very powerful tool, but in today's environment and the way they control everything, you just got to be really quiet and then do what needs to be done. Yes, sir?
At what point in our history did we lose the watchdogs in the media? And that's what it comes down to, is they're hiding this from us.
I teach a Constitution class in 12 hours. Maybe we should do that. But it didn't start with the media. It started in the schools. Actually, it started with the attorneys doing the so-called 14th Amendment and the change of the government. But in the late 1800s, plan to change the educational system in America. And they did that. And they chose a young 32-year-old psychiatrist named John Dewey. Now he's known for the Dewey Decimal System, right? But his job was to change the educational system. And by the early 20s, it was done. And it's gotten worse, and the courts have compounded that. If you look at the decisions that the courts have made, particularly after the New Deal, horrendously bad. I just wrote an article on the war powers and describing there that the courts fought it until 37, when FDR wanted to pack the courts to get his agenda through the New Deal, because the courts were ruling that a lot of it was unconstitutional. And then they gave in. And since then, the courts have not fought to protect us. But they've always been doing it, right from the beginning. Right from the beginning. The Alien Sedition Act, which what Thomas Wood talks about in nullification, was done in 1797. 1797. The Sedition Act was, you couldn't say anything against John Adams, who was the president, or the Federalist Congress. It's okay to ridicule Jefferson because he was an anti-Federalist. They left him out of the bill. All right? And Jefferson said, wait a minute, that violates the First Amendment. We have freedom of speech here, right? And Madison joined him, and they wrote resolutions in 1798 that became very well known. And then there's a whole lot of misinformation about how wrong that was. It's not. It's absolutely valid. I just read to you that these two dueling governments are supposed to check each other. The states, here's a concept. The federal government thinks it's all powerful, right? They can do anything they want to do. No. Federal government, we don't have a federal government anymore, by the way, but the federal government, the Constitution, is subservient to the states. The states created, that is, the people in conventions in the state, created the central government under the Constitution, right? The creator is always superior to the creation. God is always superior to us. We are always superior to the government. In the government, the states are superior to the federal government because the states, the people of the states, created the federal government. That's our history. We've lost it. All right? We need to be able to say to these attorneys, you're wrong. Now here's what happens when you do it, folks. I was at a meeting that was called by the justices of the Supreme Court when they're introducing their network amongst the district courts. This is a number of years ago. And they invited the public, so I went. And sitting at a big round table, all of them were attorneys but me. And we were talking about the law and cases and this kind of stuff. And I think I was holding my own. And the fellow next to me says, well, where did you graduate from? And I said, well, I learned the law myself. I didn't go to law school. From that point on, it's like I had the plague. Right? You wouldn't talk to me at all. That's the arrogance of these people. Now I can tell you, in the areas that I study, I know a lot more than they ever will know because I do it every day. And I've done it for 24 years. You got to get something out of 24 years when you're dedicated. All right? So, don't let them intimidate you. I can tell you right now, you know more about the duties of the sheriff and the Constitution, the Pennsylvania Constitution, today than most of the people in government do. If you remember what I just said today. Don't be intimidated by it, but study. Do study. And I encourage you to read stuff on the website. I try to write it in 2 or less pages, 1 or 2 pages, although the true meaning of the Commerce Clause, it took me 3 to do that. But we have to get it to them in Harrisburg in bite size. You know, getting their attention and keeping it for a very long time is really tough to do. In fact, one of the representatives says, you know, these are really nice, but it would really be better if it was 1 page and it was just bullets. Of course, I told them, I said, well, if they can't plow through 2 pages written in plain English, then you shouldn't be in the building in the first place. Questions? Yes, sir.
You had mentioned share with sheriffs in protecting our liberty?
The question is, what role does constables share in protecting liberties? A great deal. I have a diagram, which I should probably hand out. I'll do that. It'll be available at the table here. You have coroners, sheriffs, constables, and district justice of the peace. Those are the county officers that protect our rights. They've all been destroyed. All right. Constables, since the 68 Constitutional Convention now, are contract officers. They work, in essence, for the district judge. That's interesting. They went from justice of the peace to district justices, and the Supreme Court got upset because only they can have the name justices. So now they're district judges. That's how petty these folks are. At any rate, so the constable is in reality the equivalent of the sheriff, but at the township level, and the equivalent of the governor. So what you have is the governor is the chief executive officer in the county, in the state, and the sheriff is in the county, and the constable is at the township level. And they were always meant to check and balance each other. That's the whole point. As an example, originally the sheriff and the treasurer could only hold their office for 1 year, then they had to get reelected. And they could only be elected 3 times in a row, and then they had to wait 4 years, and then they could start the cycle again. The biblical number for perfection is 7. You'll see that number in a lot of things that goes in our government. All right? And why was that? The other officers could be longer. 3 years was typical. It was because those 2 officers handled the money. Sheriff's collected it, treasurer spent it. They wanted to make sure that the people had a chance to kick them out every year. Maybe we need to go back to that. All right? And everybody wants term limits. Have you heard about term limits? Well, originally there were term limits in Pennsylvania. But, this is sort of like the judges. The courts were so corrupt in 1850 they had a constitutional amendment that made them elected. And ever since they did that, the attorneys were wanting to get it back to have a merit selection. And it's come up again. They want to do that again. They want to control the selection of the judges. Now the judges are said they can't talk about something that might come before them, right? Have you heard that? Have you been in a situation where a judge has been talking about it? That's baloney. But that's what they do. They build up these walls to protect themselves, so they don't have to answer questions. So, constables are constitutionally very powerful. But they've been neutered just like sheriffs. Got to get them back. Yes, sir?
If people in this county wanted to become involved, what would they expect to be, their workload?
In a sheriff brigade?
Yes, sir.
Very good question. I'm a firm believer this is a voluntary group, so it's really going to be up to the individual. More is better. All right? But that is totally up to the county. I structured the County Sheriff Brigades of Pennsylvania as an administrative umbrella to help the people in the counties with information and the law and getting books. I buy these books in volume and sell them to the brigade leaders at almost cost, and then they can sell them to get raise funds and that kind of thing. But whatever the people in the county want to do that is lawful, it's great. Now the focus is learn the law, help others learn the law, reach out, get other people involved. Like we said earlier, numbers count. It's unfortunate. It shouldn't. The law should control. We're supposed to have the rule of law here, aren't we? You hear it all the time. It's a rule of law. Baloney. It's not the rule of law anymore. That's pretty obvious. But, so, you got to get more people. I think that if you had 10% of the voting people in your county involved in the brigade, or network together some other way, it doesn't really matter to me. Okay, that's one thing about some groups want to control everything. I don't think this is one of them. But some groups are, we're going to be the solution. No. We have got to network together and start focusing on the cause of the problem. As bad as all these bills are, are results of an unconstitutional government. If there's something they're doing that you don't like, it's probably because it's unconstitutional. You've got a lot of good common sense. So the answer to your question is grow the brigade in concert with other groups and be willing and ready to do things. There are a lot of things that are going to happen when we have emergencies. When the economy crashes, and I can tell you it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. All right? And we need to get ready for this. And there's a lot of things you can do to learn. You need to learn how to communicate without having to use the internet or telephone. Maybe CB radios. Right? You need to understand how to survive where you don't have all the luxuries. How are you going to function when there's no gas? Those are things that the brigade people, need to be involved with, helping people understand that. When it's an emergency, if you get on Sheriff Ohio's website, Maricopa County, you can spend a lot of time reading about what they do, and I would encourage you to do that. They've got a lot of years of experience. Okay? And it's totally up to you. I'm not the one who sets this. I'm here to help. All right? If you want to have me teach a class, you want me to help you talk to the sheriff, talk to the county commissioners, we'll do all that. All right? But you're the best ones to do it because I don't vote for them. You do. And that's the sad part about it. That's what motivates me. Question?
Yeah, you mentioned education and the importance and what's happened to our education system over the years, and I believe that our governor just signed on to this core curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any comments about that? Or?
Bad news.
Common Core, bad news.
Common Core. Don't know that much about it, but I'm going to start to learn about it. Again, another federal program. Here's the answer to that. Just like so much other things that they do. Show me in the federal Constitution where Washington has any authority to talk about education, much less do anything about it. Not there, never was, never could be. That's a state issue, period. And so when they do this, it's a result of the so-called 14th Amendment and the New Deal and the things that have followed, and that's a discussion for another day. But the result is all these alphabet soup organizations that they have, Department of Transportation, Energy, EPA, whatever. There's no authority for any of that. There's no authority for foreign aid. There's no authority for welfare. There's no authority for a lot of stuff that they do. And if we want to balance the budget, it's very simple. Stop doing the stuff they have no authority to do. And by the way, most of that debt is fraudulent. My answer in my paper, if you read it on the website, is if they disagree with me, you and I don't know that debt, by the way. You can never do it. They did it on fraudulent grounds, unconstitutional. Anything that the government does that's unconstitutional is null and void from the time they did it. This little book called The Supreme Law of the Land, which is, if you have a book called the Citizens Rule Book, how many of you have heard of the Citizens Rule Book? Well, it's the same book, just a different cover. But on page 7, it talks about this, and there's lots of information. I have a number of articles on the website that do it the same. All laws which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. Marbury versus Madison. Everybody's heard about that, right? That's when allegedly the court got its sole authority to judge things that are unconstitutional. That's a lie. That's not what Marshall said in this case. I know anybody's ever been stopped, got Mirandized. Did you get Mirandized when you got stopped? Miranda versus Arizona. Where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. Same thing. The general rule is that an unconstitutional statute, though having the form and name of law, is in reality no law, but wholly void and ineffective for any purpose. Since unconstitutionality dates from the time of its enactment and not merely from the date of the decision so branding it, no one is bound to obey an unconstitutional law and no courts are bound to enforce it. The problem with this decision, and that's out of American jurisprudence, that's a collection of all the decisions around the country, is the idea of who can determine what is unconstitutional and what is constitutional. My answer to that is, you and I are the sovereigns in this country. It's unique on the earth. We are the earthly sovereigns. God is our sovereign, right? And here on earth, in this state, in this country, the people are the sovereign. That's been confirmed by the courts, confirmed by, well, as it's been known. We're the final arbiter. So we make the decision. Not the judge who says you can't judge the law. Baloney. When that judge says that to somebody, what ought to happen is that judge ought to get arrested. They just mess with the jury. Unconstitutional. Anyway, you're the sovereign. You have the authority to make that decision. Now you're responsible for your decisions, aren't you? If you make the wrong decision, you might have to pay for it. You might have to pay for it anyway, because there's a bunch of crooks in charge. But until we start asserting our authority, they're going to keep doing what they do. That's how simple it is. Now, if it weren't for the courage, integrity, honesty of the framers, we'd still be saying God save the Queen here. And what was their dedication at the end of the Declaration of Independence? Anybody remember that? They pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Should we do any less than that? I don't think so. Yes, sir.
You bring up an interesting point with everybody being able to basically determine what is constitutional and what is not. So my question is, what is the purpose of the Supreme Court, especially if they give 5-4 decisions on a regular basis? What's their authority?
Like everyone else in government, and this is what Marshall says in Marbury versus Madison, by the way, the courts are bound by the Constitution. And their job is to do what they're supposed to do, and that is to judge whether the case before them is based on constitutional law. Among other things. But that case is only binding on the parties of the case, on the facts of the case, and on the law of the case. And now they've decided that when they make a decision, then everybody has to do it. That's just not the way it was designed. And first of all, their authority only reaches to federal cases. Before the war between the states and the so-called 14th Amendment, very few cases went to the Supreme Court of the United States. First of all, it's these United States, not the United States. So there's a significant change. But most cases did not go because they were settled at the state Supreme Court level because it's a state issue. And that's the way it is constitutionally. So we have to get that court back in the box. Who in the world would think that 5 people, is this the sheriff?
This is county
County
commissioner.
commissioner.
Yes, that's all I'm saying. I'd like to be the sheriff.
Who in the world would ever think that the framers would have created an all-powerful one branch that can say how everything is supposed to be? Doesn't that say that the Supreme Court is the ultimate power? And what did Hamilton say in 78? They're to be the weakest of the 3 branches. They had experienced the tyranny of the courts, star chambers and so forth. They knew how bad the courts get. They never would have created the structure of the government we have now. The Supreme Court is there to do a job, and that is to say to the other 2 branches, you have exceeded your authority. What you've done is unconstitutional. Now fix it. And that's exactly what they ought to do. The legislature, when the court rules, they ought to say, well, that court's wrong. So we're going to pass a law that says they're wrong. Or the court's right. So we'll pass a law that says they're right. Fix the error that we made. The president is supposed to stop it from happening if the legislature makes an error. He's supposed to say, I'm not signing it. And oh, by the way, he does have the authority not to enforce it. But if some previous president signed it, the president whose term says, wait a minute, that's unconstitutional law. I'm not going to enforce that. And he has to be willing to take whatever prosecution comes. And if the legislature thinks that he's out of place, then the legislature, being the most powerful branch in the government, needs to say, you're wrong, President, enforce it. Or we're going to impeach you. That's the remedy. Justice Story is a great source. If you want to read his commentaries, there were a number of scholars around the 1800s, but Story was 10 in 1789. He was a assemblyman in Massachusetts. He was a congressman, and he went on the Supreme Court in 1811. He died in 1845. He spent that time on the Supreme Court. He wrote a lot of things, but one of them is his commentaries. If you want to understand a lot about the Constitution, it's a good source. He said that impeachment ought to be liberally used, and whatever the House determines is impeachable is. It's not what the attorney state has to be, statute that's a crime and so forth. No. Whatever the House determines is a violation of the moral code, good behavior, and murder can only serve a good behavior, is impeachable. So if they determine spitting on the sidewalk is bad behavior,